All right, friends, if everyone could please take a seat, we're going to go ahead and get started. Please take a seat. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Special welcome, of course, to the extended family of Miriam Ilfeld, who will be coming bat mitzvah tomorrow. So we welcome the extended Sussman, Ilfeld, and whatever other names are associated with either of them clans. Visiting from Chicago, Sacramento, where? San Diego?
Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe? Excellent.
LA.
Los Angeles, Phoenix. All right, terrific. Thank you and welcome to our regulars and semi-regulars. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to begin with the heavens rejoicing and the earth being glad. So we'll begin with Yismechu Hashamayim. It is on page 6. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam. All right, let's continue on page 9. Mizmor shiru ladon ashir chadash ki niflaot asa hoshia lo yemino Israel, Ra'u Holan Se'ah הארץ, ישפוט תבל וצדק, ועמים במישרים. All right, we turn now to page 12, Romamu. Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachamu lehar kodsho. Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachamu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachamu lehar kodsho. All right, page 13 means more than David, but not the same tune you're doing tomorrow. Here, different tune. Mizmor leDavid, Avol Adonai b'Eli, Ahavul Adonai, Kavod va'ozayayna, Avul Adonai, Kevod shemo ishtachavu l'Adonai be'avrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod yiri, Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai ba'koach, Ayayinai Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vashaber Adonai et arzai Lebanon, vayarkiram kemo egel Lebanon ve'esir yom kemo ben re'emim. Ayayinai Kol Adonai חוזר לעבוד אש, Kol Adonai יחil מדבר, יחil Adonai ויבקרש, Kol Adonai יחולל איילון ויחסום יערות ובהיכלו כולו מרכבו. Ayayinai Adonai למה בו ישב וישב, Adonai מלך לעולם, Adonai עוז לעמו ייתן, Adonai יברך את עמו בשלום. Hey, yai, yai, nay, 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 yai, nay, 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 yai, nay, 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 yai, nay, 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 All right, Lecha Dodi, page 15. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, ונשמה נקבלה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, ונשמה נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. תפארת ונעילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת קלה, ונשמה תקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, ונשמה תקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נשוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בת 17 יבינו שמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי. על יד איש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה לה 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 לה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise and face the entrance, welcoming the Shabbat bride. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We say to any mourners in our midst, Amakom Lechem Echem, B'Tov Shara L'Bnei Tzion V'Yerushalayim, may God comfort you with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We're on page 19. יזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. We continue silently, 19 and 20. Tzadik tamar yifrach, ke'erez balvanon yizkeh, shetulim bevet Adonai bechatro, Eloheinu yafrichu od yenun besecha. Deshenim v'rahananim yihiyu lehagid, ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatavo. Adonai malach grot lavesh, lavesh Adonai ozita zar, afti kon devel ba'altimo. נכון כי שרה מאז ולמחתה, נשאו נרות אדוני, נשאו נרות כולם, יישאו נרות תוך ים. מכל מים, מים רבים אדירים, משברי עם אדיר במרום, אדוני. Adonai leorech yamim. Please rise very briefly for the call to prayer, the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai borach leolam va'ed. We may be seated. Baruch Adonai le'elam v'chalam. Asher bivaro mariv aravim. Yom v'layla, leler mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Mavir yom uvein layla, mavdil ben yom uvein layla. Adonai tzavot shemo, el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam. Page 25 for the Shema Ve'afta. We invite our Bat Mitzvah, Miriam, to come on up. She's going to lead us in this prayer.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levacha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'otecha, v'hayu advarim ha'ele, asher elochi netzavecha. Vayom chalavecha, v'shinatam levanecha, v'dibartam, v'shivtecha v'beitecha, u'lechtecha b'derech, u'shoklecha u'kumecha, u'shartam leot al yardecha, v'hayu tzatafot b'neinecha, u'kfaftam al mezuzot beitecha.
Yasher, we continue silently. Pages 27 to 29. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. I'm on the top of page 32 now. Malchuto b'ratzon k'v'lehem, Moshe b'nei Yisrael chadashu rabba simcha rabba, v'yamru kulam. La 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, orah v'milot, osef elech, Adonai lo elam va'ed. Machutecha ra'u vanecha, u'ke'ayam lifnei Moshe. זה אלי אנו ואמרו, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה. Mark Yaakov, Glim Chazak Mimenu, Bruchat Adonai, Gaal Yisrael. 33. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Leshalom, Ve'amidenu Malkeinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Leshalom, Ve'amidenu Malkeinu Lechaim. Shmor Tzveteinu Uvoeinu Lechaim U'Shalom Me'ata ve'ad olam. Right, this side of the room first. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Leshalom. This side. Hashkivenu Adonai. Adonai, Eloheinu Leshalom, Hashkivenu Adonai, Lechaim. Salenu Sukkot Shlomecha, Baruch Atah Adonai, Barei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, V'Kol Yisrael, Yal Yerushalayim. Please rise for V'Shamru, the covenant of Shabbat. V'Shamru B'nei Yisrael, Et HaShabbat, L'asot Et HaShabbat, V'Torotam B'Ruch Olam. Beni Raymond Israel, Oti Leolam, Oti Leolam, Oti Leolam. V'Shamru B'nei Israel, Et HaShabbat, L'asot Et HaShabbat, L'Torotam B'Ruch Olam. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בראש עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בראש עולם. And once again, Miriam Milfeld to lead us in the Chatzi Kaddish, page 35.
Yikadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah Ve'amad Yisrael v'lutei v'yamlich malchutei V'chayechon v'yom u'vayedecho bet Yisrael V'agala u'bizman kariv v'meru Amen Shmei Rabbah mevorach Ve'olam kol me'omaya yivarach Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitzumat v'yitnaseh v'yitzator v'yitaleh v'yitala shmei l'kedusha Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran le'alma v'meru Amen
Yashikoah. Private Amidah, pages 37 through 48. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom, Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. We're on page 47. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael be'ohev ubechol shama bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We turn to page 49. Vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chofzevam vayachal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishkop b'yom hashvi'i mikom melachto asher asa vayvarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto ki bo shavat mikom melachto asher barahim la'asod. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'elei avotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Kodei Shamayim va'aretz, Magen Avot bidvaro, Mechaye Meitim b'ma'amaro, Ha'el HaKadosh she'ein kamohu, Hameniach be'amo, Yom Shabbat Kodsho, Kivam Ratza Lahaniach Lahem, Kivam Ratza Lahaniach Lahem, Lefanav Navod B'yira v'fachad, V'nodeh Lishmo B'chol Yom Tamid, Be'ein Abrahot, El HaHodahot, Adon HaShalom, Mekadesh HaShabbat Mevarech Shvi'i Umeniach B'Kedusha Yamik Dush Ne'oneg Zecher L'Maaseh V'Reishit Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Ritzei B'Mnuchatenu Kachenu B'mitzvotecha V'ten Chelkenu B'Toratecha Samenu B'Tuvecha V'Samchenu B'Shuatecha V'Taher Libeinu Le'ogrecha Be'emet Le'halkan Chilenu Adonai Eloheinu V'Yahava U'V'Ratzon Shabbat Kodshecha V'Nuchu B'Yisrael Mekadeshei Shemecha Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Once again, Miriam Kaddish Shalem, page 53.
Yikadol v'kadash me'rabah, ve'amad yifach v'yeteg v'yichmachoteg, v'chayachonu v'machonu v'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalav zman karev v'yameru.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Me'ora, Ve'olam Olam Ve'yamaya Yikvara.
Yibrach v'yishbach ובארבן שמעת מנסה, ותדבר ותלב ותלל שמד קושה.
Rehu.
לעולם כל ברכותיו ושירותיו, שכחת ונחמת אותם מרם בימיו וימהרו.
Amen.
כי קבל שטן ורוחותינו לכל ישראל, קודם אברהם נשמע וימהרו.
Amen.
ויש לנו רב מן שמיה, וחיים אלינו ולכל ישראל וימהרו.
Amen.
הוא יעשה שלום במעמד, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל וימהרו.
Amen.
Yashikoa.
Thank you, Miriam. Very well done. We look forward to much more tomorrow. All right, so for those regulars, you know exactly what I'm going to do now, but if you are a bat mitzvah guest, I don't do sermons on Friday nights, but for the last close to 2 years, I think it's been, because not every week have we been able to do it, I'm giving a history of the presidents of the United States and their relationship to the Jewish community, and we are up to Jimmy Carter now. And of course, the problem with being ones that you all know or lived through, or most of you lived through, is you may vehemently disagree with my perspective of the history of their relationship with the Jewish people. I mean, very few of you are going to argue with me about James Monroe or William McKinley, but you know, with Jimmy Carter, you might, which is okay. So the basics of Jimmy Carter, not related to the Jewish community, is that he was a Democrat, peanut farmer from Georgia. He was known as an outsider. He really ran for president as very much of an, outside the main system. He was the governor of Georgia, though, before he ran for president. He had a Jewish mentor early on in his military career. Carter was in the Navy, and he actually worked on nuclear submarines, and Hyman Rickover, who was known as the father of the nuclear submarine, was really a mainstay for Jimmy Carter, and Rickover was demanding and exacting, and he taught him, why not the best? That was his standard. And so actually Carter's first biography was called Why Not the Best, and it was named for him. And Carter once said that with the exception of my father, no other person has had such a profound impact on my life. There were 4 Jews in his cabinet, the most of any president until actually Joe Biden. That included Michael Blumenthal, who was the Secretary of the Treasury and the child of a Holocaust survivor, or actually a child Holocaust survivor himself. Harold Brown, the Secretary of Defense, Neil Goldschmidt, the Secretary of Transportation, and Philip Klutznick, Secretary of Commerce, who also was the second Grand Aleph Gadol of AZA. So I actually had the opportunity to meet him at an AZA convention when I was in my teens. Also, Stuart Eisenstadt, later Secretary of Treasury under Clinton, was the Special Assistant for Domestic Affairs under Carter, and he helped establish the President's Commission on the Holocaust, laying the groundwork for what eventually became the Holocaust Museum in D.C. What he's best known for in the Jewish community were the Camp David Accords. Now, for which he won a Nobel Peace Prize. Early on in his campaign for the presidency, speaking at a synagogue, he said that the survival of Israel is not a political issue, it is a moral imperative. The United States will never support any agreement or any action that places Israel's security in jeopardy. And he flew back and forth from Jerusalem to Cairo, and on the day that they signed the Camp David Accords with Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat and Carter, he said that mothers in Egypt and Israel are not weeping today for their children fallen in senseless battle. Peace has come to Egypt and Israel. They had a 3,000-person state dinner to celebrate. As I mentioned, he won the Nobel Prize for it. And so, with all that I've said so far, lots of good things that he did for the Jewish community and for Israel. And yet, when he ran for a second term against Reagan, he got only 45% of the Jewish vote, which was the lowest, the lowest total in 1980 since the 1920s. He was the only Democrat since the 1920s to receive less than 50% of the Jewish vote, and 75% of Jews were Democrats and yet did not vote for it. So what happened? Well, during his presidency, despite the Camp David Accords, he called for a reassessment of Middle East policy. He tried to demand that Israel withdraw from all the territories captured in 1967, something Johnson and Nixon never said. There were people who called him more Arab than the Egyptians, and during the Camp David negotiations, it was not Carter but Sadat who gave up the call for a Palestinian state in order to sign the accords. Carter was pressing for it. Sadat said, we're not going to get that. We want an accord. And partially this was for compromise, partially for self-interest. I'm getting deep in the weeds here, but an independent Palestinian state is problematic for Egypt too in certain ways. And if you just look at the map, you will understand that. If you know anything about the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, all that is part of it. But also Carter saw Camp David as the first step only to a comprehensive Middle East peace, with a Palestinian state, the return of the Golan Heights, etc., and not as a separate treaty. And so when that didn't happen immediately afterward, and there was no negotiation for it immediately afterward, he became a very vocal critic of Israel, West Bank settlements. He was he actually ordered the United States to condemn Israel at the United Nations. And he said, he was very obstinate and stubborn about this. He said, I'd be willing to lose my election because I will alienate the Jewish community, but if necessary, still be harder on the Israelis. And alienate he did. And so that's why he only got 45% of the Jewish vote.
And lose the election he did.
And lose the election in a landslide. It wasn't just the Jewish vote that pushed him over the edge, probably Iran and other things too. But that's for another time or a different historian. So post-presidency, he's been very active, including as a diplomat in many countries, but not terribly diplomatic when it comes to Israel. He's an open critic of Israel, particularly of the settlements, always talking about how the settlements are an obstacle to peace, which they very well are, in my opinion, as well, but not to the extent that he puts it. He almost never mentions the fact that the Palestinian leadership has never really recognized Israel's right to exist, or that they would even accept the state at all. That didn't include the entirety of Israel, and he doesn't talk about terrorism. But his final straw in the eyes of much of the Jewish community, there's plenty of the Jewish community that really finds Carter still very much a beloved figure, was his book called Peace, Not Apartheid, and he helped popularize calling Israel an apartheid state. And his statements since that book are often even worse. Why? Well, the conspiracy theorists would tell you because the funding of the Carter Center is significantly Arab. Another would say that I believe, maybe this isn't fair, but I believe he kind of has sort of an old-fashioned not really anti-Semitic, but an old-fashioned Christian replacement theology view, where that Jews have really been replaced by Christians, and that the Old Testament is an angry God, and I really think that is part of his upbringing. He still believes it, and he thinks Jews are stiff-necked. He's called the Israelis stiff-necked, using that biblical and loaded term. I think the main reason, though, is his disappointment that he only got the Egypt Treaty and not the comprehensive Middle East policy. He was, like a lot of leaders, they have large egos and ideals as well. And those ideals weren't met. And because he said so many harsh things about Israel, Jews criticized him, and that kind of became a vicious circle. And so he didn't like Jews criticizing him, and it just kept building on itself. In retrospect, I would call him both good and bad for the Jews. Particularly in his administration, he did many good things. Holocaust Museum, Camp David. Post-presidency, I feel like he's given legitimacy and participated in all kinds of anti-Israel activity that has led to lots of anti-Semitism and has brought us further and not closer to peace. So that's my view on Jimmy Carter and the Jews. Next week, we'll get much less controversial with Ronald Reagan. I should actually warn you that I did actually talk about Reagan and the Jews because he died while I was here, in the last 20 years. And I did have somebody quit the congregation over my historical view of Reagan. So go figure. But yeah, I would I mean, I probably will only go through Clinton. We'll see. I'm still debating, you know. All right, we're going to continue with the Kiddush, and I'd like to invite Miriam and Joe and Jeff and Aiden and Nate to come on up. Stand right here. I'll bring you a Kiddush cup. Please rise. And it's on page 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri harafim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'shavat kodsho v'yavad ratzon himkilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit Kiyam Tehila Mikrae Kodesh Zecher Leziat Mitzrayim Kiyanu Vavarta Etanu Kidashta Mikol Alim Veshabat Koshecha Ve'avadu Pratzam Yimchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai
Amen. L'chaim to life. And we may bless our children, if you have them here, or one another. Yisimech Elohim Kesara, Rivka Rachel V'Leah, Yisimech Elohim Ephraim B'ti Menashe, V'recha Adonai V'yishmerecha, Yeher Adonai Panav Elecha V'yinecha, May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift the divine face toward you and grant you peace. Amen. All right, we remain standing for the landing. You can go back toward your seats, page 57. Aleinu l'shabeach Adonai kol ha'teitru ha'yotzei Bereshit. Velo samanu k'mish b'chol ha'adama shelo sam kelkinu kahem v'gol aleinu k'chol ha'amonam v'anachnu korim u'mishpachamim u'bodim livnei melech malchei hamachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notei shamayim ve'yosed haaretz u'moshe v'karo b'shamayim mima'am Ushchinat kuzo, Pegape miromim, Hu Eloheinu Einod. Kakatu betorato, Bedata ayom behashivata, El levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim mima'al Aretz mitachat enod. Kakatu b'torah techanayim loch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'hayam Adonai seated as we lovingly recall the memory of our departed relatives and friends as yortzeit we observe during the coming week, thinking especially of Samuel Ash, Bill Boglovsky, Edith Block, Joseph Block, Sophie Casson, Henrietta Cherry, Sam Clark, Meyer Cohen, Jack DeBruschen, Sarah Epstein, Alphonse Feibelman, Samuel Felberbaum, Irene Elizabeth Flick, Marvin Goldberg, Stanley Hirschman, Bernard Hodis, Morris Isaacson, Frida Levine Jacobs, Rose Kontrovich, Gertrude Lazar Landy, Beatrice Kaufman-Levy, Peter Lipman, Joseph Malnick, Sadok Maslia, Joe Mizrahi, Arthur Myers, Patricia Nightingale, Max Pactor, Herman Rosenthal, Frieda Rubenstein, Heskia Sadian, Albert Shore, Helmut Stein, Edith Tabak, Geraldine Turchin, Augusta Soretsky Weinberger, Sarah Stevens Zorowitz. It's also, this week was the 3-year Yortzeit for all the victims of the congregations in Pittsburgh that met at Tree of Life Synagogue. The memories of all of them are with us. We ask all those who are in mourning or observing Yortzeit to please rise to the mourner's Kaddish at this time. Anyone else who wishes to can, others can remain seated. It's on page 61. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach Yerutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chedechol Beit Yisrael v'gala v'zman kariv v'imru Amen Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevorach le'olam lo'amei Omaya Yit Barach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Kudsha Barichu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran v'alma v'imru. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Osei shalom v'imroma, uya asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam v'bracha v'nememory of the people who come and say Kaddish for us always. Let us say Amen. All right, a few announcements. Okay, so the main one is, if you are part of the Shabbat dinner, guest of the family tonight, please leave your mask on as you go downstairs. We will, you'll pick up your food, I think in the social hall, and then you'll take it, and then you'll go to your tables. I don't know if there's assigned seating, probably not, except for our seat is assigned. But so please leave your masks on until you get outside, and then when you sit at the table, you obviously can take them off to eat. And let's see, in the congregation, well, first of all, tomorrow, 9:30, Shabbat services, Miriam Milfeld becomes Bar Mitzvah. She'll be leading the Torah service, Musaf service, chanting Torah, giving the drash, and chanting a lengthy 31-verse Haftorah, First Kings. All right. And there will be a Kiddush lunch, the largest one we've had in a long time tomorrow. We'll also be outside. We've got a coat drive, which begins on Monday to benefit City Team. Drop-off bin outside the preschool, the GON office. Our weekly tech study on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Rockies Brooklyn Basin continues. But also this coming Wednesday, there's a Red Cross blood drive here at 12 p.m. And Minyan, Monday and Thursday at 8. And next Saturday, Cameron Smith becomes Bar Mitzvah. Thursday, November 11th, Jews in Bad Shoes, bowling with the men's club. See Howard Zangwell if you wish to attend. And I think I'm coming back this year for some bowling. All right.
This is the book club announcement.
Okay, let's see. It probably is. Yeah, Thursday, November 11th, TBA Book Club, 7:30 p.m. Contact Judy Glick, right there. What's the book? Here we go.
The Rabbi Finds Her Way.
The
Or
Rabbi?
something like that.
Okay.
It's about a Greek Reformed synagogue in Oakland. Really, and the authors are local and they're going to be on Zoom with us.
All right, sure, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that is about it. I want, if you are, this is only for one person, if you are cousin Josh, stick around. I need to chat with you for a moment. We're going to do a little, oh, he's not here? It's a visual, so it's okay. If cousin Josh isn't here, don't worry about it. No, I understand. Yeah, this has to do with the Hagbah, the lifting the Torah. Strength helps, but technique is more important than strength for this. but still, we'll figure it out. And if you're left-handed, it's a bonus at this time of the year, but most people aren't, as we know. And I think that is about it. If you are new for your first time here and you're not part of the Bar Bat Mitzvah family, please stick around and introduce yourself to me after the service. All right, I don't have the lyrics in front of me, but we're going to sing. We're going to sing part of the song, Miriam's song, because, well, you know, Miriam. We're only going to sing part because I don't have the whole thing memorized. Let's go. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one that we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Now Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang her history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched the spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrel followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song, the one that we exalted. Miriam and the women danced all night long. Try the last verse, I don't know if I know the whole thing, we'll try. And Miriam the prophet took her jewel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. Whoever sang with praise and love, we just lived through a miracle. We're gonna dance tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the women dancing with their timbrel followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song, the one we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. All right. Shabbat Shalom.